This is Connor from Four Corners Boxing. I'm delighted to be joined by former British, Commonwealth, European, and WBO World Champion Enzo Maccarinelli. How are you today, mate?
Yeah, good. Thank you, mate. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. It's a pleasure to have you on. I want to start by going straight back to the early days of your career, because I read that you were very young when you started, and obviously your dad run the amateur gym. Was that kind of his influence, or was it something you always wanted to do?
Uh, I didn't have a choice, to be honest. I think my dad had me with my mother just to fight. He wanted a world champion, and I had it bred into me from a young age. His fought was me about, I think, about 3 years old in the gym, hitting a bag. Obviously, I'm not learning nothing, teaching me nothing. I'm just around the gym. I'm around all the boys, and I'm pretty much up there all the time. I think I had my first spar when I was about 6 or 7. No gum shields, little gloves. And I've just always been around boxing all my life.
Oh, cool. And what was training like with him at that young age?
I started training properly about 10. Um, and he was a taskmaster, but he was pretty hard on me as well. If anyone was talking in the gym, it was me who'd get the blame. If anyone was doing something wrong, it was me who'd get the blame. I thought, he went to the show there was no favourites, and went the opposite where I pretty much got blamed for everything. And if I'm honest, it probably was me half the time.
Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
yeah.
Can you hear me? Oh, good, good. Yeah, so I was just saying,
Uh, he,
how do you
he,
think he
he,
shaped you as a
he
fighter?
made me what I am. He instilled in me a no fear attitude, the aggressiveness. Um, he, I wouldn't be where I am now without my dad. I pretty much owe him everything. From a young age, he took me around sparring, different gyms, different people. Um, just push me hard, but one over the top with it. He's like, I see some fathers do way too much for their kids, and they live in their life through their kids, and they miss out on a childhood, and they miss. Look, I was as a teen, I was out partying, I was out drinking white cider and smoking ganj and stuff like that, but I was always in the gym, I was always training, and yeah, he pretty much made me what I was.
No, of course. And with such a decorated amateur pedigree, you also won 9 junior Welsh titles. What were your ambitions when you did finally turn pro?
I wanted to be a world champion. That's all I wanted to do. I turned pro at a young age of 18. You could turn senior at 17 when I was younger, and I turned senior at 17. I had 7 senior fights. I think it was 7. All won by knockout. Five of them in the first round. And I mean, they were out cold as well. So I was knocking all these men out cold. No one wanted to fight this youngster from Swansea. So, 18 years of age, I turned pro.
Oh, good, good stuff. And you started pro life well. You won your first three, and then you suffered a shock setback against Lee Swaley. Um, how much did that take out of you to then bounce back afterwards?
Didn't take nothing out of me. It was like, um, I wasn't living a life. I was still training, but I wasn't living a life outside the gym. And in reality, when you look at some of the fights these youngsters take now, I shouldn't have been nowhere near someone like Elise Wavy in my fourth fight, but I was game for it. I was 19 years of age. He was a former world champion kickboxer. So, theoretically, I shouldn't have been nowhere near him, but I was. I lost. I actually batted him for the first 2 rounds. But I just run out of steam because, like I said, I want to live in the life, and I got what I deserved. And from that moment on, I quit smoking a blow. I used to smoke a bit of blow with the boys and stuff like that. I used to drink on the weekend. I used to go out 2 or 3 weeks before the fight. All that stopped. All that stopped. I either wanted to be a champion or I wanted to be one of them many that talk in the pub when he's older. I could have done this. I could have done that. Now I can go to the pub and I say, I done it.
Oh, good stuff. And then after that, you went on a really good winning streak, including a real war against Bruce Scott, where you were dropped in the first round. Did that kind of give you the confidence afterwards that you knew at a high level you were able to get up and have a war, or did you already know that?
I knew anyway. I knew anyway. It was the amount of sparring I done. I'm 21 years of age. I remember Bruce Scott, who was at the time the British and Commonwealth champion. He was a three-time world title challenger. We look at that today. What was someone without an elite top level amateur career would take on a fight like that in his 21st year, and I think it was my 12th fight. I always believed in myself.
No, of course. And then not long after that, you beat Gary Delaney, where you dropped him 7 times. I was going to say, did I do much for your confidence? But by the sounds of it, you didn't need that boost.
But I didn't. I just loved the fight. I wasn't scared of anyone. I wasn't ducking anyone. I think Frank Warren has come on record and said I'm probably one of the only fighters that he'd ever had who've never turned the fight down. I didn't believe in it. I was there to fight, and whether I won or lost, I wasn't fucking scared of anyone.
No, of course. And then you later went on to have the full 12 rounds for the first time in your career against Ismail Abdul. It was a frustrating and cagey fight. But did you feel like getting those rounds in gave you confidence and view yourself as a different fighter, knowing you could go those 12 rounds?
No, because it basically annoyed the hell out of me. I always trained hard. I always trained like a demon. I think from my first fight, I trained for 12 rounds. I was always fit. I was always strong. Never skipped my runs. Never skipped my sparring. I was ready to go anyway. So I knew if we do 12 rounds, it was never ever a complaint or a worry for me to do 12 rounds. But I didn't like doing 12 rounds. I fucking hated it, to be honest. And he took a good shot. I will say he took a good shot, but he's very negative, so he didn't leave himself open. So it was my first 12 round, but it was out of canter, if you know what I mean. I was pushed him. I couldn't get a combination off much on him because he was blocking and holding and just being very, very negative. I think he felt the power in the first round and thought to himself, "Fuck, I'm not getting caught with this." But he had a reputation to be one of the toughest men. Went a distance with a lot of good boys, but I fucking hated it.
No, of course, you don't get paid for overtime,
Oh,
do
I hated it.
you? Not long after that, you linked up with Enzo and Joe. What was it like being in camp with them and being in that environment around two legends of the sport?
It was amazing. I know Joe and Enzo from a young age. I remember having an exhibition on one of Enzo Calzaghe's amateur shows when I was 15, and it was funny because my dad went there, and I think I had an exhibition with a 22-year-old who was only 15, and my dad said, "Yeah, you start with Enzo. You put him in a new place. Don't start with him. He's only young. He's good." So the boy battered me in the first round. I come back to the corner. My dad said, "What are you doing? Fucking nail him." So I hit the body shot in the second round. So there I am, a 15-year-old. I just crumpled a 20, 22 or 24, 25-year-old. Fucking crumpled on the floor, gasping for air. And the exhibition got stopped because of a 15-year-old. So I've always known Enzo. I've always known Joe. I always looked up to Joe, obviously. And I was always fit, so I was looking forward to test my fitness out because I heard he was a fucking taskmaster. And the first day I was there, done it easy. I come home in the car. My brother phoned me. He said I was training. I said, "Yeah, easy, no problem at all." Second day I come home, I had to pull over in the car on the way home. I was fucked.
And then your
Beat you.
first fight with, oh sorry,
So,
and then your first fight with Enzo was the big one for the world title against Marcelo Dominguez. What are your most prominent memories of that night, finally capturing that world title and fulfilling your dreams?
it was my fondest memory of the night was my dad's face because my dad told everyone for years my little boy's going to be a world champion. No one believed him. He said, "I'm telling you." But I'm talking about when I was 10. He told everyone, and so to see his face was unbelievable. That meant more to me than actually winning it. That's how close me and my dad were. But my memory of the night was Marcelo Dominguez had a reputation of being the hardest chin in world boxing. No one shook him. Oh, here I am now. I'll prove everyone wrong, and I did in the end. But I think in the third round, I threw a jab. He threw a jab. I made him miss, and he fell short. And as he fell short, I cracked him with the best right hand I've ever thrown in my life, flush on the chin. He looked at me in his gravelly Argentinian voice. He went, "Good shot." I went, "Oh fuck." He just didn't budge. He didn't. But I think I knocked him out in the eighth or the ninth. But up until then, hard man.
Yeah, cool. And then your first offence was against a man you'd already fought and beat in Mark Hobson. The first fight was close on the cards, but this time around was anything but close. You stopped him in 71 seconds. What do you think was different about that night?
It was when I fought him the first time. Don't get me wrong. I trained hard. I trained as I normally do. But he was the first time I realised what weight cutting is and stuff like that. I want a big cruiserweight. I was one of them who was stuck in the middle,
Mhm.
stuck between like the heavy and cruiser. And I remember seeing him at the weigh-in, and my brother phoned me. He said I was fucking, and I said, "Oh, he scared me." I said, "Screws a line." He said, "I'll rip the cunt in half." I said, "I'll fucking rip him to bits." I seen him walk in the ring on fight night, and I'm thinking, "Fuck, that's a different person." It was completely different. So that my mindset went a little bit, and I didn't put my mind to that. The second time, I just knew. I told everyone. I said, if it's 1 or 2 rounds, I'll catch him. Um, they said, "Oh no, no, no." I said, "Trust me." I said, I did tell people it'd be a double jab right hand. I said, "I'll catch him with a double jab right hand," and that's what happened. 71 seconds.
Oh, lovely. And then a few fights down the line, you got that massive fight against David Haye for the WBO and WBC. How do you reflect on that now? And with hindsight, is there anything you would change?
Oh, massively, and it's not something that I've always talked about. Uh, it's not something that I've always talked about because I don't like making excuses. I don't make anything. But the week before I boxed Hay, I weighed on a scale 14 stone 4, so smack on the cruiserweight limit. So perfect. I come home after my spar. It was great. Went up to London on a Monday to do a press conference. For some reason, I come back the same night. I thought I'm not staying up in London for a week, so I come back. My daughter was ill, and I caught a bug. And if you look on the scale when I weighed on the scale on the way in, I had a pair of tracksuit bottoms on and socks. And in them tracksuit bottoms, I had 2 phones in my pocket. I had Frank Warren's wallet in my pocket, so I was half a kilo. Uh, and I think I weighed something like 1310. So the biggest fight of my life. I dropped nearly a stone in a week, and I didn't need to. I was nearly a stone underweight. So would I have beat him on a different night? I don't know. I take my hat off to him. He was that good. Um, but I certainly would have had a much better chance. And that's my only regret of boxing is that I didn't tell enough people that I wasn't right. I know if I'd have told Frank Warren, he would have pulled me out straight away. But they didn't pull me out. But I look back and at the time I think, right, I'm brave. I'm going to go through this. Things are going to get better. Come fight night, I'm going to get better. Come fight night, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to recover. I think we weighed on the night of the fight. I think he weighed over 15 stone. I weighed close to 13.5 on the night of the fight. So, and
Yeah.
I first time in my life I knew I was going to lose all the way up to the fight. I was going to win that fight. I was not scared of no one. I still wasn't scared on the night, but I knew I was going to lose because up until that point, I think I had 25 to 26 fights, or 26 wins, and I reckon at least 75% would have beat me that night. I was nothing. But again, take nothing away from him. He was that good. Would I have beat him on a different night? Don't know. Would have had a much better chance.
No, of course. I mean, against someone like David Haye, you need to be 110%, don't you?
But again, my own fault. No one made me fight.
No, of course. And then after that, come a few tough fights against Afolabi and Lebedev. Um, how difficult was that stretch, and how did you mentally prepare to go again?
I just wanted to fight, against Awful I saw it was a good fight, and I jumped into him. He was a last minute call. He was fit. He was a very unknown, but he got known after. Uh, and I threw a lot of shots, and I was messing around with my training, and I was doing a lot of strongman training, and I couldn't get sparring. I was going through things with trainers, and I was just like, and I just run out of steam. I think it was the third round, like someone popped the pen in me, and I just fucking lost my energy. He made me miss a lot, so I was throwing bomb after bomb. Against Lebedev, um, I went to Preston. I trained up in Bolton. Sorry, Bolton. I trained. I stayed in Preston. I trained in Bolton with Carl Lynch, who's a great trainer, really good trainer, and he'd be a good trainer if I'd have started off with him. But I was too long in the tough for that, and um, they brought a strength and conditioning guy. I'd never had a strength and conditioning guy in my life. I was always fit. I was always strong. Stronger than most heavyweights. Anyone who's ever sparred me, any heavyweight, will tell you how strong I am. Even Dave Allen has mentioned in a podcast sparring me. You can't believe how strong I was for someone so small. And they took my running away. They wouldn't let me run. Carl done everything right. He thought he was doing everything right, and he's a brilliant trainer. I certainly would have been a good fighter if I'd started with him from the start. But it was too long and tough, and they took all my running away from me. Took me out doing a lot of weights, and I was just confused. I tried to change my style, tried to be more patient. And I remember catching Lebedev, who watched. I catch him in the first round with a body shot. I heard the gasp of air. Normally, me, I'd go for the finish. I just thought, and shall I go? Shan't I go? I was just confused. And it's an old saying. It's sort of an excuse, but it's not. But it's an old saying: if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. And I didn't prepare right, and that is my fault.
No, of course. And quickly want to go back to one of your earlier answers, where you mentioned about the David Haye fight, how the preparations and how that went down was one of your regrets. Do you feel like the way your style and the way you fought sometimes, where you opted to engage when you didn't necessarily need to because you could box, was that a regret, or you just love to fight and you went on your shield?
If anyone ever seen me in the gym, they would see a complete different fight of what they seen on fight night. I was very slick. I could box with my hands down. I was up my toes. I throw fast combinations. But something come over me on fight night where I had to go and try and knock someone out. I had to try and entertain. I knew boxing was an entertainment business, and I loved the fight. I had God given power, and I've been knocking out people for years, and I just love knocking people out. And I say it's a regret that I couldn't change. It sort of is, but I've always been known as someone who would wear his heart on his sleeve. I just wouldn't feel right trying to win a fight by pinching rounds and just doing enough. Look, you've got to see with me. I come to fight.
No, of course, and I'm sure that's why the fans respected you for that. And then you travelled to Russia as a massive underdog to fight for the European title. What was the atmosphere like that night?
It was mad. It was a funny story for that. It was it was a prize fighter tournament coming up. Remember the old prize fighter?
Yeah, of course.
I got offered nice money to go in that, and I had bigger bonuses. I had an entry fee, and I would have made close to about 10 times more than what I made in Russia because money in Russia was awful. And I remember sitting down with Frank, and he said to me, "Give me the two options." The prize fight was like 9 weeks time, which were brilliant for. I had no training at the time. Training myself, so at about 8 or 9 weeks, I could have found a trainer. I could have gone in the best shape of my life, or I could have gone to Russia to fight the so-called killer on 3 weeks' notice for a European title for I wouldn't even say a quarter of the money. It was probably less than that. But when Frank offered me, I chose Russia, and he said, "You must be mad." And I said, "Nah, it's my Rocky moment. It was my Rocky moment. It was I won in this. I won in this sport for money. Sometimes I wish I was, but I weren't. I was in it to fight. Frank offered me money. I'd say yeah. There was no negotiation. That's why he liked me so much. I wouldn't have to negotiate hard. It'd be yeah, okay. I just wanted the fight.
No, of course. And what was the atmosphere like when you starched him in the first round?
I told everyone we was at the press conference. A couple of the Welsh WABA secretaries with me, and they said, "Oh, the Calzaghe going to batter you." I said, "I'll knock him out first round." They were laughing. No, I said, "I promise you." I said, "I'll knock him out first round." And Ron Pavet, who come over with me, said, "Ah, you can't be putting pressure yourself like that." I said, "Don't you worry." I said, "I'll knock him out first round." Uh, and the bell went. I went out. I cracked him. He went down. And there was Dean Powell shouting in the corner, take your time, throw a feet first." It was one thing on my mind. I was taking him out in Russia, and I was winning our European title.
And After that, you come up short against Frankel, but you moved down to light heavyweight after that. How do you feel that weight change benefited you at that stage of your career?
It, like I said, I was sort of stuck in between, and with the Frankel fight, it was another one. Frankel at the time was an absolute killer. No one wanted to go near Frankel at all. And Frank said, "Look, we've got this boy. He's number one contender for the title. We sidestep him." I said, "What do you mean we sidestep him?" I said, "Give the belt up." He went, "Yeah." I said, "We got no chance." He said, "Yes." I think he had some like 26 first round knockouts. And I remember telling Frank, I said, "I'm not ducking no one." And I trained myself. I went up to spar Chisora on my own. I went to do this, I went to do that. I went in first round. Frank will come out. He sort of battered me first round because I just tucked up nice and tight. I was on the lock at him. Second round, I beat him up. Third round, beat him up. Fourth round, fifth round, sixth round. I remember looking in the corner, and I remember looking at him, his arms on his ropes. He was dejected. He'd been battered. And I was told, stick a jab in his face and, he'll quit. No, I got to go for the highlight reel knockout because I knew he was ready to go. And I made a reach with the right hand, and he caught me with a massive left hook, put me down. I got up. I couldn't say my name properly, but the ref let me carry on. He caught me again, but he came in the change room after, and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I had a broken jaw, but his face was black and blue. He'd been battered." And he said, "I'm sorry." And I said, "Oh, I'd have done it too, so don't worry about it." And the story goes, we both had to have brain scans after this. It was such a grueling fight, and obviously I passed mine, and he never boxed again. He failed the brain scan after the fight, so he must have taken an absolute tuning that night. But I won. I sort of won the war. He won the battle.
Now, of course, it's like what you said. You just went out your shield, tried to entertain the fans.
Oh, look, I should have gone. I should have gone with the jab. I should have. And he was ready to go. I would have cracked him with a jab a couple of times. He would have quit. He was ready to quit. But no, I got to entertain. I got to make people go home and talk about it, and they did, but the other way around.
And then after that, you had the first fight of Oval Mackenzie, which was obviously ending
Uh,
in a real controversial stoppage. How frustrating was that, and how did you process that setback?
oh, I just had a bad year. My father passed away. It was other things that went on, and it was just like the accumulation of the year. Obviously, I was pissed off at the time, but it was just like the accumulation of the year. Uh, oh, it just couldn't. The year couldn't get any worse. And as soon as I left there, I phoned Dean Powell. I said, "Look, I want that again." He said, "Oh, you're getting on a bit now." I said, "Oh, trust me, I fucking want that again." And I had a fight with Carl Wild, but I boxed shit. Uh, I couldn't get myself up for it. I just boxed shit. I still stopped him. Um, and Dean said to me after, he said, "Look, Enzo, you haven't got it no more." Um, it'd been a good run. He said, "Well," I said, "Dean, I want him." He said, "Oh, look, he's doing this. He's knocking this out. He's knocking him out. He's knocking that out." Dean, get him for me, and I'll knock him out. So we had the fight, we had the plan. Me and Gary come up with a plan. He said, "Look, I want to get on the toes box for the job." I said, "No." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "No." I said, "The one." I said, "I'm not." He said, "He's strong." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm not having people think he's stronger than me. There's no chance he's stronger than me." So Gary said, "I can do it your way." So that's what we did. And we just tightened up my defense a little bit, and we worked to a plan where the plan was just get on him. And so then it worked out an incredible fight, and I think I stopped him in the 11th and knocked him out on his feet in the 11th.
Yeah, of course. And what was the feeling like immediately after you finally avenged that defeat?
Oh, it was probably the best. I boxed in the Millennium Stadium a few times in the Principality, the National Stadium. That was probably the best atmosphere I've been in. The crowd was absolutely buzzing, and see me and Gary hugging on the floor after the fight. It was just an unreal experience.
Now, of course. And then obviously scored a stoppage win over Roy Jones Jr. Even at that stage of his career, what was it like being in there with someone that's got legendary status within the game?
It was an honour, but you know, I was under no illusions. I was brought over there as a name, as an ex-world champion. He was he was a fought for a WBA title. Um, I was under no illusions. I knew what I was over there for, but I just knew they made a mistake. I told them all they made a mistake. He was still good. He was still fast. He was on a better run than me. He beat a couple of boys I beat better than me, and they thought I was gonna get hammered. And I think when we went to the public workout,
Hmm.
I started hitting the pads, and when I hit the pads, I sound different to people. I think because of the power and snap my shots, I just sound different. And I remember hitting a 4 or 5 punch combo, and it rattled round the place. And I remember looking over at Roy and the promoter, Vlad, and they jaws had dropped. They knew then I wasn't coming the fuck about. And I seen him at the weigh in. I shook his hand, and he tried to pull me towards him, and I'm very strong, so I pulled him towards me. And I just said, "Look, it'd be an honour to fight you tomorrow." I said, "But if you've made a mistake, I will knock you out." He laughed. He said, "No, no, I'll knock you out." I said, "Yeah, we'll see now." And they tried every trick in the book. They called me down to the ring about an hour before. I was waiting in the fire an hour. I was punching walls, keep myself warm, and I just knew because he still had fast hands. He's still strong. He's still at that, but his reflexes had gone. His reflexes weren't the same. And against someone like me, who obviously very heavy-handed with little gloves on, um, they they just made a big mistake, and it was a nasty knockout.
No, of course, and because that was in Russia,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
Moscow,
Is that right?
Moscow.
Yeah, they must have learned their lesson. They must.
First St. Petersburg, second one was Moscow. So went to Russia twice, knocked out the hometown hero twice. I got out to Russia alive twice. I was never going back there again.
No, of course, they must fucking hate you over there.
Oh, can't stand me.
And then you finally retired in 2016 after a fantastic career. How easy or difficult was it to walk away?
I always had something in me that where I still want to fight. And I still do. I'm still fit. I still, I'm under no illusions. I'd say I could walk in and win a world title now, so I couldn't. But there's a couple of top boys I see. I guarantee I could still be about if I had to. I still do 12, 15 rounds every day. I still spar. Still do my runs. Not as much as I used to, but I still do. But I'm coaching now, and I've been coaching a long, long time. And I live my life with them kids now. I got a fantastic gym. I got some great fighters. Um, Sonny Desmond, Jersey Desmond, Charlie Myler, my two boys, Luca Romeo Maccarinelli. I got some great pros. Willie Galaney's one of them. He was a 10-time national champion. Had 10 years out of the ring, come back a fat mess. We got him down to 75 kilos, and in 2 years he had 6 fights, 6 wins, 3 knockouts. Two-time national champion already. I got Kieran Bevan, cracking amateur star, just had his first pro. Conor McIntosh fighting for the British Eliminator next month. So my gym's thriving, it's bouncing. I love each and every one of them. And we're a big family unit in there. We all get on, and I live my life with them. So I always harbour intentions that I could do it again. I want to do it again. I've had a couple of offers, but I'm happy. I gotta realize it's got to come a point where I got to stop. And I I'm sitting here now thinking, oh, I could, but no, I'm happy.
Yeah, don't fancy going on Misfits against Joey Essex or Jake Paul or anything like
Oh, go yes, that's how I need enough to train. So no, it just don't interest me at all. Don't get me wrong. If they're not stupid, they see my boxing, my pad videos, and they can see I'm still in shape, they can still fight. And if Jake Paul miraculously offered me 10 million to come back, we talking, but it's not going to happen, is it?
that. No, I think you're a bit too young for him.
Yeah, I probably too young. I probably still too good in shape. I certainly won't be.
No, of course. And lastly, I was just going to ask, what would you say was your best moment of your career?
It would be winning that world title because it was the years and years of my dad drilling into me, telling me I'm going to be world champion, telling everyone I was going to be world champion, and it was like all that hard work paid off, and to see my dad's face, to see his little boy winning a world title, which is what he wanted. That actually meant more to me than actually winning a world title. So that is my best moment.
Of course, lovely stuff. Well, listen, Enzo, thanks so much for your time. I really do appreciate you coming on. Cheers, mate.
All the welcome.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.